Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Muckenthaler. I'm the platform strategist for Trend Micro here in the US and a Vision One subject matter expert. I am super excited to talk to you today about two very compelling stories that our customers are resonating with: cyber risk exposure management, as well as securing the AI lifecycle. If you were able to watch our webinar on April 16th, The Future is Proactive Security, my content today is going to build off of that dialogue. So we had a lot of great conversations and stories around why the shift to proactive security. But for you as a channel partner, it's really important for you to be able to take that information that Trend is doing within our product portfolio and our business strategy and apply it to your customers. We want to make you successful. So we're going to dive into some of those concepts and turn them into revenue generating activities for you. So that's what my sessions are today: that background and need to know on how we apply some of these stories. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm super thrilled for our sessions, and I'd love to open up and introduce our next guest. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and jump into our first session focusing on cyber risk exposure management. I'm really excited about the solution because I think it offers a lot of visibility both from a customer perspective and a partner perspective. We're really coming into a period of time where businesses are being more thoughtful and intentional behind procurement and investments. And we want to make sure that we're leading those investments down the right path. You cannot go wrong when it comes to proactive cybersecurity. If you're going to choose, you want to choose proactive over reactive because that investment you get back 10 times over. With cyber risk exposure management, by having that visibility, you as a channel partner, whether you're a traditional channel partner, whether you're a managed service provider, an MSSP, you can leverage the CRM dashboard as a measurement of success within your customer organizations. So you can track how you as a service provider are doing, but also how your customer are doing at managing their risk, which can transform how they approach cybersecurity as a whole and make investments more meaningful. To help me discuss cyber risk exposure management, I have Joe Marroquin, who's the CISO at Vestas, as well as Mark Lund, who is our strategic partner manager for the South. Let's get this started by bringing on Joe first, our customer, of course. Joe, I want to bring you kind of to the screen here and ask you a quick question. Why is this so important for businesses to invest in from a cybersecurity perspective?
Well, I think that there's several points here that I think are important for us to make. We've been dealing in this world of traditional vulnerability management that's kind of ad hoc. It's not continuous. It's choppy by design. You might get a report every month, every few weeks. Whereas if you have a continuous view into your entire landscape, I think that's one of the areas that I think is important. And then I think the proactive side is very important for us because we don't want right of bang. We don't want to deal with issues after they materialize. We want to catch these issues before they materialize. And it's just far easier if we can just not deal with the event happening at all. And then just making sense of the volumes of information that's out there, of saying how do we prioritize some of these threats that are out there and how do we deal with them versus just looking at a universe of just threats or vulnerabilities that are sitting out there. We say, what should we be looking at? And I think this whole space that's kind of evolving is starting to transform the way we deal with this threat management space.
Absolutely. I think you brought up some really good points. You want to keep your environment as far to the left as possible because that's the area that we're seeing security events start to develop, and then we can stop them from happening before they turn into a true event or, even a breach. I'm curious how your team operationalizes a cyber risk and exposure management platform to drive your business outcomes. How is this tool helping you achieve your goals when it comes to cybersecurity?
Well, one of the major items for us is really visibility of being able to, we use the Vision One console quite extensively, and you see kind of patterns of behavior that before you would just see actions or you would just see something happen. We are able to kind of predict and say we kind of see the tempo of threat actors that we could not see before. So we could say, We know that these people are taking steps or trying to take steps against us, early in the month and late in the month, something that coincides with like a financial cycle or something of the sort. Or if we have tokens that expire at certain times, we can tell that when the threat actor starts to adjust to that, we can actually see those kinds of things. Whereas before, we were kind of just reacting to it. But now we kind of start to see a tempo appear, and there is kind of a logic. It's almost like you we've been playing chess against threat actors, but we were never able to see them or see their behaviors until they actually move the piece. We're actually starting to be able to see them. It's almost like who the criminals in the neighborhood are all of a sudden, whereas before we didn't. We just knew that things were missing. And here it's like all of a sudden it's kind of like putting cameras around your house. You can start to see those behaviors and you say, oh, this particular crime was committed by this particular actor. This guy came and jiggled my front door and then went and jiggled my back door and couldn't get in and left. So we see that we're starting to be cognizant of the actual threat actors for who they are.
I love that. I think that's such an important need for organizations today. We've been battling kind of this resource crisis, whether it's staff, skills, budgets, whatever the gap is. Organizations are starting to invest more in the tools themselves that are providing maximum value. And it's all about that proactivity to make sure when you need those expensive resources or you need those big skills, you're not spending all of your time and effort on those expensive resources. In fact, you're managing more effectively while you can. And you brought up the security cameras. When I look at my security cameras now in my neighborhood and I see someone on my camera, I don't know if it's a neighborhood kid. I don't know if it's, a dog walker. I don't know if it's someone, scoping out my house. I don't know what their intentions are. I just see them. Whereas with the cyber risk platform, you're able to actually differentiate who a threat actor is and what their intentions are, not just, oh, I saw this event. So I love it, Joe. I'm going to pass it to Mark really quick. Mark, you're coming on the partner side. I want to hear from you how, after hearing Joe speak about what this means to him as a customer with cyber risk exposure management, what does this mean for partners and having a tool like this within their customer base to help them manage their cyber risk? What does that look like?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. We're at a unique turning point, I believe, within the industry. Based upon what Joe was saying, with CRM now, to Joe's point, what we're doing is evolving from a reactive to a proactive state. So seeing what's involved in the environment. Consequently, with the way Trend's offering this solution is if a customer of the partners wants to implement it, we don't have to rip and replace. We can actually leverage the existing services that they have today and actually give them a risk-based score on a NIST platform. So it's a standardized score with what they have. They don't even have to have Trend Micro involved. So what's really nice is from a partner standpoint, we can provide customers like Joe an idea of where they are on risk with their existing tools. And then we can augment and add on to that. And as much as we'd love to provide all our customers with nothing but Trend, we're smart enough to be able to leverage those assets. Anything you'll see with Visual is great. Don't feel overwhelmed. You have to implement it all at the same time. So it's very modular based upon what the customer's needs are, what the partner's needs are, and what the budget needs are. We can grow this. And I think that's what's really nice. The people like Joe freak out when they hear rip and replace because it's expensive and it can just lead to a lot of things, training and such. So what our customers like and partners is you can grow with this solution in incremental ways based upon budget, need, and training. So from the partner standpoint, we're getting a lot of strong feedback in that, again, it's all about risk. And our partners are trying to provide people like Joe with advanced warning, advanced stuff without being reactive. And so based upon where they are in this environment, we can offer those solutions. The other nice thing, as Joe's probably seen in others, is that we offer cyber risk assessments. We can tell customers where they are at in their journey for different areas within risk. And that's all through our partner portal. So if there's any partners online that haven't seen that, contact myself, because what's really nice is you can go to a new customer and then based upon your discussions, offer them a risk-based assessment on cloud, on external facing assets, on email, which is, again, all based on what's there for the customer. And from a partner standpoint, we've also found CRM offers the opportunity for professional services. Some of our customers will look at an environment within the Vision One console, and they want to reduce risk. And as we all know, what's nice about the portal is it can tell you you're at a risk score of, say, X, and you want to drop it 10%. Well, we outline that for you and say, well, if you update these machines or run these updates, we can do it for you. Sometimes they need help from a partner like that. They might not have the breadth and staff to do that. So that's where I believe services that are offered by our partners do two things. It's good for the partner, and it's also good for the customer. While we have awesome security services, a lot of times we don't offer those solutions. And then I think the last thing that people like Joe and other customers are seeing that CRM plays into is consolidation. So I think Joe had said customers are getting overwhelmed with the amount of information, the alerts, different consoles. And so we're seeing an interest from our customers and partners in driving that consolidation for customers like Joe. So those four areas I think really make CRM exciting for the channel partner community, as well as for the person that really matters, the customer.
Absolutely. All great points, Mark. I really want to call out the competitive piece because this, I think, from the channel perspective, anytime I speak to or work with channel partners with Trend Micro, I always talk about cyber risk exposure management because it's so friendly to existing investments.
Yep.
When I was a seller a couple years ago, it was challenging for me to break into channel partners or meet with new customers because so many of our competition are already installed within a customer environment. And again, you don't want to hear the words rip and replace on the customer side. From a partner perspective, if you just landed a big investment from your customer on another cybersecurity vendor, you don't really feel like you want to just go ahead and jump into another conversation with another cybersecurity vendor right away. But with cyber risk exposure management, again, we don't really have competition in this space because we're correlating data from those existing investments as well. We're working together to provide that visibility that Joe was saying was so great for him and his team. This tool allows us to work with those other vendors pragmatically to provide the best outcome for Joe and his team. Joe, I want to pass it back to you. I want to kind of hear from you after hearing Mark speak. If you could picture your partner as well as your vendor working together to help align your priorities when it comes to cybersecurity based on the visibility that cyber risk exposure management provides, how would that be helpful for you?
Well, I think one of the big things for us is kind of the continued evolution of these technologies and how they integrate with each other. I think is very important. I think the thought that came to mind when you were mentioning like the cameras outside, you don't know who's what. I think if we go back to like the first generations of cameras, they just recorded everything. And if you wanted to see something, you had to go find it for that 30 seconds when something happened. Now it's like things are, the cameras come on, only when there's activity. And you say, okay, well that helps a lot because now I don't have to go through hours and hours of footage. And now cameras can do face recognition. So if that's like a neighbor or if that's a stranger. And so similarly with these tools, as these tools and these technologies evolve, one of the challenges that I think one of you mentioned was staffing and resourcing. We can't just keep hiring people. So our tools have to get more sophisticated. Our technologies have to get more sophisticated. We can't be using the same consoles that we were using 5 years ago. We need better tooling that evolves to the threats that are out there. And as our technology landscape just expands overall, we need to be able to touch all those things and make a sense out of all of it. And it's not going to be, from my side, it's not going to be more people. It's going to be better tooling, better partners, and partners who kind of understand of saying, okay, where the tooling and your staffing leaves off, we might need to bring in a specialist to help us with certain things that, we just quite frankly can't keep on staff because it's, it would be a misuse of a hire of just having somebody on site just in case that special light bulb needs to be changed. So we can't do that. So we need a partner who will be able to bring that to us when we need it, when we've exhausted the tooling and exhausted our current staffing.
Absolutely. I think that's where true partnership comes in. At
Mhm.
the end of the day, we're all here for you, Joe. We're all here for the customer. So the tools and the investments that help us work together, those are what we should be prioritizing moving forward for sure. I want to thank you both for your time today. I'm again super excited about cyber risk exposure management. We're going to go into our next session, which is focused on cloud native application security for AI and securing that AI lifecycle. So thank you again for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate.
Thank
Thank you
you.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for that session. I'm going to take a little bit of a transition into a topic that so many of our partners, our customers, all of our engagements seem to revolve around, which is securing AI and AI projects. I am bringing in two of our biggest supporters of early adopters, our Vice President of Sales for the East Region, Jim Bailey, as well as our Technical Director for the West Region, Hai Wen. Securing AI kind of starts where the customer is. We know that AI security and AI projects, AI development, AI use is a never ending battle between cybersecurity and the business. The business has kind of forced AI use within their infrastructure, and cybersecurity teams are left to kind of pick up the pieces or develop their own regulatory actions or strategies around AI within their organizations. With Trend Micro, what we've done is we've kind of broken out securing AI into 6 different components or 6 different storylines to help address the need for securing AI, but also meet our customers where they are in that journey. It's a circle, it's very cyclical, it's not linear. It's not step 1 to step 10. It's more of what's your use case for AI? Where are you using it? Where are you implementing it into your business? And let's talk about how we can secure it. Cloud native application security plays a huge role in this because those AI projects need to be secured from the ground up. And that comes from infrastructure. I'm going to pass it to Jim to kind of talk about what it's like to manage some of these very large enterprises who were early adopters of cloud native application security and how that's kind of helped prepare them for this new evolution with AI security and already having things like container security in place or security as code in place or cloud risk management or cloud visibility in place as well to help kind of steamroll some of this progression into their use case for AI. So, Jim, what are you seeing in the field in terms of what customers are doing?
Kate, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I think what's happened is we're seeing much of the AI is like the gold rush of going to the cloud. Let's say 8 to 10 years ago, right? When people were trying to figure out what that meant and what they needed to do. And now, as we look back on what the outcomes of that today is that so many people. Customers that we never thought would go to the cloud, like governments and SLED, are actually all going to the cloud now. There's no going back on it now. Everyone is there. So the idea that they need to secure that infrastructure, they completely understand. And it typically started with securing the initial workloads in the cloud. And then it became a business decision around moving to microservices. And that's where things like container came in and shifting left and moving left, much further down the CI/CD pipeline, right? And what they needed to do. And I think many companies are still in that mode right now. I think, there's massive opportunity to still partner on opportunities within companies to secure the container infrastructure. And that's so critical because containers are the plumbing for the AI infrastructure that's coming next. So
Mhm.
absolutely have to be able to secure that microservice infrastructure. And then there's a lot of different pieces around it. But I think that is the very beginning of what we're seeing today and the move. It will only, adjust out from there.
Absolutely. I think you kind of nailed it. It is the infrastructure is the heart, it's the pipes. Everything is running. Anything that's supporting AI is running from that infrastructure. So being able to secure those pieces itself, that's where it starts. The cloud native piece, it's another great point. Organizations who were cloud adverse before are now suddenly rapidly adopting the cloud. What advice do you have for organizations who are starting that transition, and how can a partner rep, whether it's Trend Micro or not, but just how can a partner rep really support that transition for those organizations?
So I think there's a really massive amount of opportunity for partners in this space, right? And where I see that is around consulting and services, right? And that's not what Trend does. That is not, where we're on point. We're on the technology, we're on the product side. So I think it's a real nice partnership from that perspective for the two of them to work together, us and a partner, whoever that may be. Because I think customers right now, before they make the AI move, they need to understand first how to classify that data, and that's the underlying piece that we need partners on, right, who are really good at that, understand the consulting piece of that, add and wrap their services around it, and then bring us in from the technology perspective. But the two of us working together, I think there's massive opportunity in that space.
Completely agree. Good point, Jim. I'm going to pass it to Hai to kind of talk a little bit about the technical piece and kind of help our partners understand more of the digging into and qualifying some of these AI projects. I mean, Hai, I'm sure you can agree. AI is not a matter of if, it is a when, and most of our customers are already adopted and having to secure not just the infrastructure, the microservices, the models, the user access as well. Hi, what do you recommend for both partners and organizations? How do we start this conversation? How do we start to untangle this ball of yarn?
No, thank you, Kate, for having me on. And great question. I think that's a common challenge where a lot of organizations have, and also partners, is the lack of visibility, right, on those AI services or projects that an organization may have. Oftentimes, they are there. It's just that the security teams or the operations teams is just not fully aware of it. So from a partner perspective, they can go with Trend Micro Platform and being able to assess the environment holistically, right? And simplifying that process end to end.
So how do we start to understand, the platform use case with Vision One? Because we have so many opportunities. I'm going to use a slide that's our security for AI slide that breaks it down into those 6 categories: the data, microservices, models, infrastructure, network, users. Those are where we see those layers of security for AI really start to be necessary. How do we pull all of that into a platform when there's 6 different categories of security being leveraged? How do we do that at Trend?
Yeah, no. So we do that very easily. So we leverage the existing tooling that the customer already has. So if they're in the cloud, we can integrate directly with their cloud providers that is providing probably the AI services. And we're able to do that without necessarily deploying any sorts of agent. It's through an API to API and provide a risk quantification around those particular services that they might be leveraging or using, whether or not there are maybe not configured optimally from a security perspective. At the same time, our end users that are accessing public service AI services, just like ChatGPT, Grok, you name it, you could leverage a zero trust model and being able to see who and how they're leveraging those type of services, and then being able to normalize that context across multiple different layers. And that way we can provide in visualization, here's all the different AI services, who's using it, and what are the risks associated to them.
Mhm. So in terms of layering in Trend Micro, it doesn't really sound like we have to necessarily start from scratch. It sounds like we can layer in our services, our technology right where the customer is without having to do a ton of overhaul on the infrastructure side.
Absolutely. And you don't have to jump around with multiple consoles as well. It's all within that same purview.
Perfect. Awesome. Jim, I'm going to pass it back to you for another question. Where do you find the biggest gaps in not just our customer base, but in organizations, the biggest gaps when it comes to cloud native application security that would be a really great starting point or a jumping off point for these conversations?
Um, I think it's probably understanding how to shift left, right? I think that's a gap that if you're not comfortable having those conversations, that it's hard and it's a little bit scary. But I think you have to be able to get comfortable having those conversations. And I think if you are and you're inquisitive and you're engaging, I think that you'll be able to find opportunities, and I think you'll be able to talk with your customers about it. Again, I think that's a perfect opportunity when we talk about the different spectrums of partners we work with, anywhere from, strategic partners to very focused cloud partners, right? But I think everybody can have those type of conversations. And listen, every organization I'm finding out there is absolutely engaged in a shift left mentality. It's just not being afraid to ask that question and figure out who's doing it and where they're doing it. Everyone is transforming their business right now. And many are still transforming from the cloud side, but they will ultimately all be transforming into the AI. There is no doubt about it.
I love the call out to shift left. I completely agree. I'm finding some of the smaller cloud built agile companies, pure cloud organizations, they're still driving that shift left mentality. It's almost never enough. Whereas these large organizations, to your point, if you're 10,000 users plus, you can't turn a cruise ship around on a dime. And that's kind of what makes it a little bit scary to start talking about this. But again, that pressure from the business side is really forcing their hand, and it can be a challenge. So I think that's a great point. Hi, I'm going to pass it back to you. Same question. Where do you think a major gap or a great starting point for these conversations would be when it comes to securing AI with cloud native?
Yeah, I think to Jim's point a little bit earlier, right? There's always that mentality to try to continue to shift left more and more at such a rapid pace to your point. And from a security perspective, that is always kind of a couple of steps behind, right?
Mhm.
Normally security might not be aware of this new application or this new AI service until it's already out there published and already up and running. And now we're figuring out, well, how do we secure it, let alone gain visibility into it? What are the risks? So the assessment is always after the fact. So it's
Mhm.
very important for us to leverage technology that we already have in place to understand what that risk look like more from a holistic layered approach versus piecemealing it from one technology to another technology to another technology, and then figuring out what is the risk of implementing such a service. That's where I think partnering with Trend Micro and our partners can leverage our tooling to be able to provide that context and risk quantification to help them accelerate their AI projects a lot faster.
Awesome. Yeah, great point. Instead of piecemealing a strategy, why don't we look at this from a holistic approach? And then that way it's a lot easier to navigate and correlate any risk associated with these AI projects. We know that there is inherent risk with AI, whether that's from public or private use or natively built AI tools. There is risk associated, which is why we're having so many conversations around it. Why not take a risk platform approach to this project and build in those protection layers as we go, instead of having, to your point, to start from scratch and piecemeal it together? So
Kate, I think it's like the early days of cloud, and it's this
absolutely.
whole idea of shadow IT, that if you didn't think people were spinning up cloud instances and you not knowing about it, people are spinning up AI and using it, and you may not know about it. So
Absolutely.
there's opportunities to secure that all along the way.
I think that actually like just drops me right where I want to go for my closer, Jim, is the cloud native application security conversation is not new, but we're framing it around AI now instead of just like a hyperscaler environment. Shadow IT has taken on a new world of shadow AI. But trend in our product development and our product strategy has led us to this point and put us in the position of being a leader because we have such a strong CNAP platform to begin with. I want to call out the AI blueprint because this is what's going to walk you through securing those journeys very intentionally, but it also has the products and capabilities from Trend's Vision One platform in order to do so today. Again, we're not starting from scratch. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're repackaging existing strategies around this AI lifecycle and meeting the customers where they are. Thank you so much for your time today. Again, it's not about revolutionizing cybersecurity. It's about applying cloud native application security in a way that is intentional to AI projects and locking down some of that usage that might be unauthorized for our customers. Partners provide a huge service to us because there are things and there are conversations and services that partners can have that Trend might not be able to because we're on the product side, but really working together to, again, untangle this ball of yarn that is AI security. There's a lot of opportunities for conversation and dialogue. But remember, with Trend, we meet the customer where they are and we allow them to grow within our platform. So, Jim, hi, I want to thank you so much for your time and your input today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks,
You
Kate.
bet. All right. Thanks everyone again for your time today. I'm so excited about these motions between securing AI and cyber risk exposure management. These are two amazingly compelling stories that we are taking to our customers that are resonating so well. I love the fact that with CREM, we don't have to focus on competitive displacement, which for our channel reps, I understand can be very challenging. This just kind of takes that pain away from, displacing existing investments and actually complementing existing security spends. When it comes to securing AI, I mean, this is a huge problem for every organization out there, whether it's user access or if it's, securing the intellectual property of an AI model that either, their services such as yourself, if you're an MSSP or an MSP that are building out AI projects or managing projects for these customers, the pain that they're feeling, all the way down to the user access level. Are we allowing or disallowing engagement with AI tools within an organization? So, really powerful conversations that add instant value to whatever you're working on with your existing customer accounts. So for next steps, check out that security for AI blueprint. That is public facing, that is customer facing, it is all over the place. Take that into your meetings with you, send that out to your customers. It's a little agnostic in its approach. Know that Trend Micro provides those products, but it really is a blueprint to help your customers learn how to secure AI. Also, use the CRM resources that we have provided to you. Those are incredibly helpful. Risk and exposure management is a very broad conversation. Where do you start? How can we help? How can you be intentional with it? And those resources will really help you out. I want to encourage you to connect with your channel representative and start some mapping sessions. I guarantee you, every account in your list is looking at AI. Get in front of them, have this conversation, be proactive. We are more than happy to help you. Your account teams here at Trend are prepared for those conversations. If you want me to get in front of your customers and talk about securing AI or CREM, I am more than happy to do that for you. Whatever you need to be successful within your accounts, we are here to help. And finally, that last natural step, book your customer meetings. You guys have some amazing spiffs for those meetings. I want to encourage you to maximize that, but also know that there is instant value to be had with a conversation with Trend about these challenges around risk and exposure management and AI. We are more than prepared for these engagements, and our product portfolio can absolutely help out your customers. I want to thank everyone so much for their time with me today. I really enjoy talking about these stories. Again, my name is Kate Muckenthaler. I'm the platform strategist for Trend in the US. I'm going to pass it back to Shannon and Jake so that they can continue their session for you today. Thanks.